The Zodiac Killer is the alias of an unidentified serial murderer who operated in Northern California during the late 1960s. This case is renowned as the most famous unsolved murder mysteries in American history, firmly embedding itself in popular culture and motivating countless amateur detectives to embark on solving it. Between December 1968 and October 1969, the Zodiac Killer claimed the lives of 5 known victims in various settings across the San Francisco Bay Area, targeting young couples and even a lone male cab driver. The locations of his known attacks include Benicia, Vallejo, unincorporated Napa County, and San Francisco itself. Remarkably, 2 of his victims survived their encounters with him. The Zodiac Killer asserted that he had murdered 37 individuals and has been associated with several other cold cases, some of which are located in Southern California or outside the state. The killer adopted the name Zodiac through a series of provocative letters and cards sent to local newspapers, in which he issued threats of further killings and bombings unless they were published. Some of these letters featured cryptograms or ciphers, in which he claimed to be amassing his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Out of the 4 ciphers he created, 2 remain unsolved, with one only being deciphered in 2020. While numerous theories regarding the killer's identity have emerged, the only suspect officially named by authorities was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender who passed away in 1992. Although the Zodiac Killer ceased sending written communications around 1974, the exceptional nature of the case has sustained international interest over the years. The San Francisco Police Department classified the case as inactive in April 2004 but reopened it sometime before March 2007. Although the Zodiac claimed in letters to newspapers to have committed 37 murders, investigators agree on 7 confirmed assault victims, 5 of whom died and 2 survived. They are, David Arthur Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, were shot and killed on December 20, 1968, on Lake Herman Road, within the city limits of Benicia. Michael Renaud Mageau, 19, and Darlene Elizabeth Farron, 22, were shot on July 4, 1969, in the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Mageau survived the attack. Farron was pronounced dead on arrival at Kaiser Foundation Hospital. Brian Calvin Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Ann Shepard, 22, were stabbed on September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Hartnell survived, but Shepard died as a result of her injuries a couple days later on September 29. Paul Lee Stein, 29, was shot and killed on October 11, 1969, in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco. On August 1, 1969, 3 letters believed to be authored by the killer arrived at the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. These letters, which were remarkably similar, were subsequently described by a psychiatrist as the work of someone you would expect to be brooding and isolated. In these letters, the individual took credit for the shootings at Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs. Additionally, each letter contained a section of a 408-symbol cryptogram, in which the killer claimed to have encoded his identity. He demanded that these cryptograms be prominently featured on the front pages of the newspapers, threatening to go on a killing spree throughout the weekend if his demand was not met. Specifically, he stated that he would cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night, then move on to kill again, until I end up with a dozen people over the weekend. The San Francisco Chronicle published its portion of the cryptogram on the 4th page of the next day's edition. Alongside the code, there was an article that quoted Vallejo Police Chief Jack E. Stiltz expressing skepticism about whether the letter had truly been written by the murderer. Chief Stiltz requested the writer to send a second letter containing more verifiable details to prove his identity. Fortunately, the threatened murders did not occur, and all 3 parts of the cryptogram were eventually published. On August 7, 1969, the San Francisco Examiner received a letter that began with the salutation, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking." This marked the first time the killer used the name Zodiac for identification. The letter was in response to Chief Stiltz's request for additional details that would substantiate the claim that he had killed Faraday, Jensen, and Farron. In this letter, he also remarked that when the police decoded his cipher, they will have me. Author Soren Roast Korsgaard explains that the episode paragraph in this letter alluded to an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode titled Museum Piece. The attachment of a light to a gun was a plot element that the Zodiac Killer adopted from the episode. Moreover, the episode's dialogue contained the phrase, "the most dangerous game," a reference that the Zodiac killer both mentioned and acted upon, incorporating Hitchcock's story elements. On August 8, 1969, Donald and Betty Hardin of Salinas, California successfully decoded the 408-symbol cryptogram. Within it, they found a message containing a misspelled reference to "the most dangerous game." The author also mentioned that he was gathering slaves for his afterlife but did not reveal his name, asserting that disclosing his identity would hinder or halt his collection of slaves. At 2 a.m. on October 22, 1969, an individual purporting to be the Zodiac made a phone call to the Oakland Police Department. During the call, this person demanded the presence of one of two well-known lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, on the talk show AM San Francisco, which was hosted by Jim Dunbar and aired on KGO-TV. Unfortunately, Bailey was unavailable, but Melvin Belly did participate in the show as requested. Jim Dunbar appealed to the viewers to keep the phone lines open, leading to several calls from someone claiming to be the Zodiac. During one of these calls, Belly asked the caller for a less ominous alias, and the caller chose Sam. Sam expressed fear of the gas chamber and refused to disclose their true identity. Belly attempted to arrange a meeting with Sam outside a shop on Mission Street in Daly City, but no one showed up. Subsequently, investigators traced the call back to a patient named Eric while in a mental institution, ultimately concluding that this individual was not the Zodiac. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a card containing another cryptogram, which consisted of 340 characters and was referred to as Z340. This cipher remained unsolved for over 51 years until December 5, 2020, when an international team of private citizens, including American software engineer David Oranchak, Australian mathematician Sam Blake, and Belgian programmer Jarl van Eyck, successfully deciphered it. Within the decoded message, the Zodiac disavowed being the Sam who had spoken on AM San Francisco. The Zodiac asserted that they were not afraid of the gas chamber because it would hasten their journey to paradise. The team submitted their findings to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, which verified the discovery. The FBI stated that the decrypted message did not provide any additional clues about the identity of the Zodiac. On November 9, 1969, the Zodiac sent a 7-page letter, in which they claimed that two police officers had encountered and conversed with them just 3 minutes after the shooting of Stein. Excerpts from this letter were published in the Chronicle on November 12, including the Zodiac's assertion regarding the encounter. On the same day, Officer Don Falk wrote a memo detailing what had occurred on the night of Stein's murder. Then, on December 20, 1969, precisely 1 year after the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, the Zodiac mailed a letter to Belly, which included another piece of fabric from Stein's shirt. In this letter, the Zodiac expressed a desire for Belly's assistance. Throughout the remainder of 1970, the Zodiac killer continued to engage with law enforcement and the public through a series of letters and greeting cards sent to the media. In a letter postmarked on April 20, 1970, the Zodiac wrote, "My name is ... followed by a 13-character cipher that remains unsolved to this day." In the same letter, the Zodiac denied responsibility for a recent police station bombing in San Francisco but suggested that there was more notoriety in killing a police officer because they could fight back. The letter also included a diagram of a bomb intended for a school bus. At the bottom of the diagram, the Zodiac used a symbol to represent himself, indicating a score of 10. While the San Francisco Police Department score was noted as 0, on April 28, 1970, the Zodiac sent a greeting card to the Chronicle, featuring the ominous message, "I hope you enjoy yourselves when I have my blast," followed by the Zodiac's signature cross-circle symbol. On the reverse side of the card, the Zodiac threatened to detonate the bus bomb unless the newspaper published the full details he provided. The Zodiac also expressed a desire to see people wearing Zodiac buttons. In a letter postmarked on June 26, 1970, the Zodiac expressed frustration over the lack of people wearing Zodiac buttons. In this letter, he claimed, "I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. This statement possibly referred to the murder of 25-year-old Sergeant Richard Radtick 1 week earlier. On June 19, Radtick was writing a parking ticket in his patrol car when an unknown assailant, unrelated to the traffic violation, shot him through the closed driver's side window with a .38 caliber pistol. Radtick succumbed to his injuries 15 hours later. Despite the Zodiac's claim, the San Francisco Police Department denied his involvement, and the murder remains unsolved. Included with this letter was a Phillips 66 roadmap of the San Francisco Bay Area. On the image of Mount Diablo, the Zodiac had drawn his familiar cross-circle symbol, adding the numbers 0, 3, 6, and 9 to the design. The letter also contained a 32-letter cipher that the killer asserted would, when decoded in conjunction with other clues, lead to the location of a bomb he had supposedly buried and set to detonate in the fall. However, this cipher was never deciphered, and no such bomb was ever found. The letter concluded with the Zodiac signing off with his distinctive crosshair symbol. In a letter postmarked on July 24, 1970, the Zodiac claimed responsibility for the abduction of Kathleen Johns, despite the incident having occurred 4 months earlier. On July 26, 1970, the Zodiac paraphrased a song from The Mikado, incorporating his own lyrics describing plans to torment his slaves in paradise. The letter bore the Zodiac's signature cross-circle symbol, along with a new score notation of 13-0. A note at the bottom of the letter mentioned that MT Diablo code, hinting at radians and inches along the radians. It was not until 1981 that a close examination of this hint by Zodiac researcher Gareth Penn revealed that it pointed to the locations of 2 Zodiac attacks on a map. On October 7, 1970, the Chronicle received a small 3x5-inch card, signed by the Zodiac and featuring the cross-circle symbol, which was reportedly drawn with blood. The card's message was formed by pasting words and letters cut from an edition of the Chronicle, and it contained 13 punched holes. Inspectors Armstrong and Tashi concluded that it was highly probable that the card had been sent by the Zodiac. Next came the final Zodiac letter. Prior to this, the Zodiac had maintained silence for close to 3 years. On January 29, 1974, the Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac, postmarked with praise for The Exorcist, which he described as the best satirical comedy I have ever seen. Alongside this unusual compliment, the letter featured a passage from The Mikado and an enigmatic symbol at the bottom, which has remained a mystery to researchers. In a final note, the Zodiac provided a new tally, asserting, Me equals 37, SFPD equals 0, referencing his claimed total of 37 murders. Well, just who exactly is the Zodiac killer?